is doing all right after the long bank holiday weekend. And I see we're still on track on Dubai time. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session, Fast Tracking a Progressive Tomorrow, Blending Innovation and Sustainability for a Resilient Future. My name is Jaap Bastiaansen. I'm the CIO and partner of Nexus Climate, and it's a privilege to moderate this panel as we explore how emerging technologies, sustainable finance, and strategic adoption can help us build a resilient future. With us today, we have an excellent panel, and I let Robyn introduce himself, everyone very briefly, and then we dive straight into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jaap. So my name is Robyn, and I'm a senior manager at the Commercial Bank of Dubai, focused on sustainability transformation, both within and outside the bank.
My name is Farrukh Shad. I take care of sustainability consulting and advisory service for Schneider for Asia Pac, Middle East, Africa, and India.
My name is Beyhan. I work at S&P Dow Jones Indices in the Index Investment Strategy team. My team is responsible for creating thought leadership, research insights to help promote our indices. And my specific focus in my team is our sustainability-related indices across asset classes, and I have a global mandate, so I cover our clients globally.
And my name is Krisztian Benyo. I'm technical business developer and quantum solutions expert at Pasqal, a France-headquartered global quantum computing company who is building this new generation of computers that we're going to talk about and is involved in many sustainability-related activities for new emerging technologies.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for being here. I think, Krisztian, we're going to start with you, giving, quantum computing is rapidly advancing and has a big impact on emerging technologies. What is it? What is its potential sustainability impact, and how can it contribute to solve global challenges?
Yes, so when you talk about sustainability impact, the key word is finding new innovative solutions, finding something ingenious, something intelligent to provide this lasting solution, this lasting impact for the future. And for that, often people, companies are required to think out of the box. For this reason, deep tech is in a prime position to help out because mobilizing, developing, and applying deep tech, AI, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, neuromorphic computing, things like this, you really need to think outside the box. Especially for quantum computing in general, it's really a fundamental change in paradigm. It's really a new way to think about information, to manipulate information. It requires solutions, that requires methods that were not thought of, that were thought impossible in the past, even 20 years ago. For this reason, it mobilizes a lot of researchers, a lot of new talent in order to propose these solutions and to define impact. This is what we need. We need talents, we need brilliant people who are involved in these new technologies, who are embarked in it from the beginning, who are able to utilize it to its fullest potential. We need this ingenuity to provide this lasting impact.
Great. Thanks for the insight. Farrukh, over to you. Based on your experience at Schneider Electric, are these specific trends emerging from hardware to software across industries like the built environment? And maybe, given you're relatively new to the region and your work in APAC, are there any lessons learned to be applied that can be applied globally here back into the region?
Sure. I will try to answer you. I'll take the first part, and then I'll take the APAC part later. So to start about innovation and sustainability, innovation provides the inertia or the momentum for sustainability. Now, the trends that I'm seeing, clearly IoT and smart buildings. IoT and smart buildings are taking the leap forward when it comes to hardware, because for example, what we in Schneider do is we add actuators and sensors on our products, which are able to tell us what's happening in the building, for example, or an industrial unit. So we are able to leverage all that information and then use it towards energy efficiency, to use it towards sustainability goals. So we are able to do that through IoT platforms. We are able to do that through efficient building management softwares, for example. Then, of course, the bigger trend that we see is on machine learning and AI, where artificial intelligence will tell us and will be able to do a lot of activities which will help us accelerate on our goals to sustainability, to be able to be more efficient in all the management of all the units that are there. So for me, yes, we have these trends, but how do we accelerate? Now, what I see in Asia Pacific is there's a lot of stock for brownfield, which means you have existing buildings which needs to be converted to be smart buildings, because then only you'll be able to know what's happening there. So, and I see a huge acceleration in Asia Pac towards moving towards the smart buildings for the existing brownfield. In Middle East, I think you have a lot of greenfield projects, and you have a naturally super opportunity to be able to move into that direction a lot more faster. Because if I look at big cities in Asia, like Hong Kong or a Singapore, we see a lot of buildings which still need to be moved on. And similarly, you will see in the manufacturing units in Vietnam or Thailand as well. In the Middle East, you have all the projects which are super new, and they're coming up. For example, if I look at Saudi Arabia, a lot of projects are coming up in 2030, 2040, and they're by nature net zero. And I see the same thing happening in Dubai as well. So a huge opportunity for us in comparison to APAC on how we can accelerate.
Great, thanks for the insight. Robyn, over to you. CBD recently collaborated with PwC on a paper about the intersection of sustainability and as well consumer experience, a bit what Farrukh mentioned as well. How do you see emerging technologies like AI and blockchain playing into that dynamic?
Yeah, thanks, Jaap. So the article is titled Empathizing with Customers, Sustainability as a Key Differentiator for Banks. And in it, we argue that while digital by default customer experiences absolutely continue to be important, they have become the expectation and are no longer the main competitive playing field for banks. And if we listen to our customers, then we hear increasingly that sustainability is becoming a key differentiator. This is something we're hearing through our own customer engagement channels, and we were also very fortunate to have access to PwC's most recent Voice of the Consumer survey, which focused on climate-conscious consumption in particular for this year. And one of the stats that really stood out to me in this survey was that over a quarter of consumers in the Middle East are experiencing climate anxiety on a daily basis. This is a very significant number, and it's no wonder and only natural that this is impacting consumption decisions. Now, for the banking industry in particular, our customers are increasingly aware of the fact that where they bank is part of their overall carbon footprint, social and environmental. And for us, that's really important to understand. It's primarily through commercial lending and investment decisions, and also the extent to which their bank is enabling that net zero transition, as well as our broader sustainability goals. Now, bringing it back to your question on AI and blockchain, these very much have a role to play in terms of delivering customer solutions that are both transparent and values aligned. AI, for example, can be used to deliver hyper-personalized insights to help our clients on their journey to sustainability in a way that's both aligned with their priorities, but also their spend and behaviors. But I do think we need to take a step back, and I know this is something that you're planning to tackle with my fellow panelists. But of course, these emerging technologies do come with a significant environmental cost. They are very energy intensive, water, very, very relevant for this region. And so as a society, it's very important that we also align on what are our objectives for these technologies. And when we think about innovation, I do think we need to be careful to not limit ourselves to technological innovation. There's also social innovation, and kind of increasing and strengthening the social fabric can be extremely powerful in terms of unlocking share economy and different models. So those should very much be part of our toolbox as well. And I also think that sometimes the simpler and less technologically advanced solution can deliver a lot of the benefits with less of the footprint. So when we think about sustainability, I do think we absolutely need to take a wide lens approach and make sure that we are always picking the right solution to get to our outcomes, while also minimizing any unintended consequences. So a little bit of a long-winded answer, but hopefully it gives you a perspective of what we're thinking about at CBD.
Thanks, Robyn. Maybe shift a little bit and give the word to Maya. But how does S&P looks at that, especially from an indexing perspective? What sustainability risk and opportunities does AI present from your side?
No, thank you, Jaap. Yeah, this is a very, very good question. We get this question a lot. So let's think about the key strength of artificial intelligence. It lies in navigating and managing the complexity of systems, right? From climate to global supply chains to power grids. The ability of artificial intelligence to analyze vast amount of data can uncover hidden patterns, connections, and type of things that were unthinkable previously. I will give you a few examples how we have already using it, and in the future we can improve and continue to use it from the perspective of indices. For example, artificial intelligence can be used to improve the sustainability data that we use to construct our sustainability-focused indices, right? When it comes to data, it's really absolutely fundamental for the quality of the index that you construct. So as the underlying data gets improved, so will the index that you construct. So one area is, that's something we do at S&P Dow Jones Indices, we utilize AI to improve the underlying sustainability data and the metrics that we use to construct our indices. Another example that we can use AI for index construction would be, for example, in the thematics area, right? For example, at S&P Dow Jones, we offer the S&P Kensho Global Artificial Intelligence Enablers Index. Basically, this index is designed to track the performance of global artificial intelligence companies. This type of index can be appealing for type of market participants that are looking to leverage the opportunities around AI companies. Another example would be the other side of the coin. Because AI doesn't get a free pass for sustainability. If you think about AI and the underlying data centers that power AI, this is super carbon heavy. Right? Let me give you some statistics. Globally, the carbon footprint of data centers for AI companies actually is estimated to be 2% of total global carbon emissions. That's a lot. So all these underlying data centers that power AI, they are very, very carbon heavy and they are high emitters, right? So from the perspective of indices, it can be that based on the index investment strategy, if one of the goals is to eliminate the heavy emitters, this can result in this type of data centers, type of companies to be deleted from the index. That's the other side of the coin. But on overall, so many opportunities, so many different ways of improving, from the improving of data, to leverage the opportunities that the AI companies offer, we can construct different types of indices to offer to market participants.
A great insight. And you mentioned as well, like the question is more like how does it actually influence as well the construction of sustainable indices, especially given it's so energy intensive and things like that?
Yeah, in terms of the construction, I would go back to the point of improving the sustainability data, right? I think AI has a huge capacity to improve the underlying sustainability data. It can be like the quality of, for example, the carbon emissions, Scope 3 emissions, or new metrics that we can design with better qualities that we can feed into the construction of the index. So really about the metrics and the underlying quality of the data improvement.
Great. Thanks for this. I think energy consumption is mentioned a couple of times here now. Dr. Krisztian, especially in high-performance computing and AI, how can emerging technologies actually solve some of these challenges?
Yes, so a key point has been evoked here is the energy consumption, the carbon footprint of these AI solutions. So if you need a power plant to power your AI model to save 2% energy, are you really sustainable? Well, the answer is not really. So it's really about thinking how much energy you consume, not only during using these models, but preparing these AI models, these machine learning models, and even before that, manufacturing the resources that you need to run these models, to construct these data centers. All of this has fixed and variable carbon footprint that adds up to a lot, even a much more important percentage that was already mentioned. So for this reason, emerging technologies might have a potential to bring a lasting impact. We really need to think about currently constructing CPUs and GPUs for our data centers has a production cost and more than anything has a maintenance cost that especially comes from the cooling side. So these electric devices all generate heat that needs to be regulated in order for them to be able to function for a long time. And this cooling is actually the majority of what consumes the energy. So if you can construct systems, computational devices that consume less energy, that do not require cooling or less cooling, you are already bringing lasting impact. Quantum computing in particular has a potential in this because depending on the type of computer you're building, you can go about building systems that do not require this cooling because they do not naturally generate heat depending on the architecture. So that is already an important impact. The technology itself, the computational resource you use. And the second thing is that you need to be conscious about is when you run your solution, so how frequently are you running your models? It's not the same carbon footprint if you have to train and run your model every quarter, every year, or you have to do it every day. That's not the same carbon footprint. That's not the same energy consumption. So being conscious about this life cycle of the solution you will be deploying is a key factor that a lot of the industrial players and especially a lot of the supercomputing sites, high-performance computing sites are not aware of. For this reason, with quantum computing, people are pushing to highlight, to put forward these types of performance metrics that deploying a quantum computer as part of your solution can bring about a net reduction in your carbon footprint. But to illustrate this, we need the numbers from the classical side. So these new emerging technologies like quantum are pushing the classical industries to be more conscious about these performance indicators, about their energy consumption, because there is this competition that's evolving that's putting them into a bad light, so to speak.
Interesting. Maybe Farrukh, what is your perspective? And maybe as well, I know you attended COP29 recently, but what are maybe some of the takeaways from this perspective as well?
Sure. I'll come back on the data center point first. On the data centers, I fundamentally believe the time has come for a net zero data center and how we will move towards a net zero data center. We are talking about integration of renewables. We need that. We need liquid cooling as well. Not apart from the traditional cooling measures. I'll give you an example. Google has a data center in Finland, which has 97% less carbon footprint than any other data center in Asia, right? So basically what it tells you is if you're integrating renewables and if you're using the right infrastructure, and then to your point, the right digital twin to model how it's going to be, I think it will work out. So somewhere we are moving towards a net zero data center. That's what I would say. Now coming back to COP29, of course, COP29, there's a political side to it, there's a private side to it, there's a corporate side to it. There's a lot of discussion that happens everywhere. I'm not going to go into that direction. What I will tell you is sustainability is a team sport, which means that everybody needs to play a role. I fundamentally saw public, private, and non-profit have to come together, and they need to play a role. And I think that is happening, that has started happening. I saw that in COP28 in Dubai, I saw that in COP29, that the presence of non-profit was always there, but the presence of corporate has added a lot of flavor to it as well, and it is moving forward. What I was really surprised about, it's my personal opinion, is the absence of big tech in COP29. I saw big tech firms keeping away from COP29. I don't know whether it was the region or what it was. I saw representation, but I saw them not so visible as they were in the previous COPs. And of course, AI and data centers and everything has a role to play in that as well. So I think that is something that we need to make sure that big tech is on the table when it comes to sustainability. Industrial tech like ourselves is there, but we think that big tech needs to be on the table if we want to tackle it, because they have a big role to play here.
No, I agree. I think the big companies are actually saving on reduction of emission with their flights.
Yes.
So it's a good thing as well at the
Absolutely.
same time. Maybe let's explore some funding models and financial instruments. Robyn, CBD issued a groundbreaking $500 million conventional green bond in 2023. Can you walk us through your sustainable finance journey and what initiative you're planning next?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's correct. We launched our first green bond last year. It was off the back of our sustainable financing framework, which defines what is an eligible green project for CBD. And in June of this year, we released our first green bond report, which provides visibility into both the allocation of our bond as well as the impact of the projects that we financed. And that last piece on impact was particularly important to us. It was a new capability for CBD, so we engaged with Morningstar Sustainalytics to help us estimate the finance emissions avoided for each of the projects we financed. And we definitely will be taking the key insights from that in terms of comparable impact into our future green financing strategies. Now, in addition to green loans, which fall under our green bond, we are also engaging in sustainability-linked lending, where our customers' sustainability objectives are integrated into the financing mechanism. And so if you look at sustainable finance at CBD today, it's comprised of those two components, green loans and sustainability-linked lending. Now, I do want to spend a moment on what the future looks like, and in particular on the word innovation, because that is the key theme for today's discussion. So I do think it is important to remember and recognize that commercial banks are very good at financing the adoption of existing and commercially viable technology. And when it comes to climate mitigation, this is great. We have a lot of the technologies that we do need between solar panels, EVs, so on. And so there is a role for the commercial banking sector to play in terms of encouraging and accelerating the adoption of these technologies. Now, when we think about the hard-to-abate sectors, there still is very much a financing need around the innovation within those sectors. And I think tackling that and increasing financial flows there does require a more mature market definition around green financing and a recognition that there are variations within, and those come with different impact, but also risk levels. And so, defining that will help kind of give credit where credit is due and move capital at the different rungs of the impact ladder. And I do think when we think about innovation within finance, unlocking more private sector capital around enabling that top rung of the ladder is where the next wave of innovation has to occur within finance in order to unlock that innovation within the real economy. So looking forward, that's one area that we will be paying more attention to as a bank.
Great, good to hear. And Maya, Indices actually can address the funding gap for the green energy transition. How can they foster the innovation?
Yeah. Now, thank you, Jaap. Again, super good question. You know, there will likely be a combination of solutions to achieve the global goal of net zero, as opposed to just a single solution. So businesses and governments should utilize all the tools that are available to them, right? And one of those tools can potentially be offered by indices. And I will give you an example. Think of carbon credits. Again, it's not the solution, but it can be a useful tool, among others, to help close the funding gap. Basically, carbon credits can help mobilize capital towards developing countries where it's most needed to fund like green infrastructure projects, for example, right? At S&P Dow Jones Indices, we offer the Global Carbon Credit Index, which is basically designed to reflect the performance of the most liquid segments of the global carbon market. So market participants can utilize it to diversify their portfolio, but also use carbon as a commodity, assuming the future price of carbon will pick up, you know, in the form of a carbon tax, and then underlyingly, it will help that whole ecosystem of mobilizing capital towards developing countries to fund green infrastructure projects. That would be the one example I would give in terms of how indices can help closing the funding gap. The second example I would give is in the fixed income space. So think of the sustainability-linked bonds. And for this region, for example, green sukuk, right? Those type of investment vehicles can be super helpful, again, to stir the capital that is needed to help close the funding gap.
Great, thanks for the insight, Maya. Farrukh, at Schneider Electric, what kind of models do you use to spearhead these innovations? Do you focus on building in-house solutions, partnering with startups, or do you leverage corporate venture capital, for example, to spearhead some of these innovations?
Sure. The answer is all of the above. So we have a venture fund from Schneider where we actively go and seek and fund startups. It is based out of the Silicon Valley, but of course it is operating throughout globally. So we do that. We have our own solutions as well from the hardware side, but on the software side as well. We have our own platform, IoT-enabled platform called EcoStruxure. We have EcoStruxure buildings, we have EcoStruxure power. Basically, it's an open platform where everybody can contribute into, and it is linked back into our hardware. But of course, it provides all the data that is needed, which eventually helps in the energy efficiency and moving towards all the sustainability goals. So we have that as well. We work with a lot of startups on the software side because we have had a transition from being a purely hardware company into an industrial technology company. So we do hardware, but we also have a software, and then we have also moved into consulting and advisory services. So what I represent is a consulting and advisory service, which is basically working with Fortune 500 companies to advise them on how they can move towards their sustainability goals. So we work with 40% of the global Fortune 500 companies on that. So we do that part as well. And lastly, of course, we track very efficiently through a sustainability index on how we are performing on our own journey as well. on innovation for sure, but how that innovation is happening in Schneider reaching towards its carbon neutrality or net zero goal. So we do that.
That's great to hear. So you're definitely outperforming your benchmark, right? In that sense. Now let's look at how we can actually stay ahead of the curve. Dr. Krisztian, emerging technologies often come with significant hype, a lot of buzzwords, a lot of PR. But how can organizations actually ensure that the right message about these technologies can be conveyed and understood by stakeholders?
Yes, so information is key, and this is something that can be very, very dangerous if not handled properly. Especially with emerging technologies, we are really at the forefront of science. The solutions that leverage these technologies are really literally coming out of laboratories. They are leveraging hundreds of years of scientific advancements. For instance, when I mention quantum computing, a lot of you might think, okay, that's science fiction. But the reality is that today, we have working quantum computers deployed in high-performance computing sites. So it's not science fiction, it is something that physically exists and is deployed in an industrial environment. However, the technology itself is complicated. It's really based on decades of high-end research using different fields, physics, mathematics, computer science, to reach the stage of maturity where we are. So understanding it is key, but this is something that can be daunting. So getting into these technologies is not an easy thing. Therefore, a lot of people might give up or stop halfway through and keep maybe the wrong messages about these technologies. You cannot really stop halfway through, and for this, synthesizing the information and disseminating the right keywords is actually the way to go forward. To go back to quantum computing, there is an actually quite fun piece of literature called Quantum Computing for Babies. So it is actually a picture-based book that explains how a quantum computer works in a way that is understandable for, okay, maybe not a baby, but a 5-year-old. So it is possible to explain these fundamentally complex phenomena using the right words, using the right illustrations, using the right material to retain the key messages on which you can build and form an educated opinion. And this is one of the key reasons why, for instance, United Nations during the summer has declared next year, so 2025, as the year of quantum science and technology. So their main objective is to have this overarching one-year program to sponsor, to foster local initiatives all across the globe to help people understand these new emerging technologies, to help people get involved, get embarked, and to transfer the message that you do not need a PhD to get involved with these technologies. And once again, understanding is really the key and the first step to avoid misinformation and to allow companies and individuals to retain the right messages, not to get confused and not to get, I would say, embarked by the hype itself. It's really about looking beyond the hype and retaining what actually is the reality of these solutions.
Great, thanks. Maya, maybe over to you and we follow the row. In 1 minute, what do you think needs to be done to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I'm going to link it to the first point I made in the beginning. The key strength of artificial intelligence, it lies in navigating and managing the complexity of systems. Businesses, governments, can utilize AI to track performance, to predict outcomes, and to enhance system behaviors in previously unthinkable ways. One example I will give, and I think that's one of the most important examples, AI can revolutionize the centralized power system. For example, think of like a virtual power plant, home-installed batteries that autonomously return power back to the grid. AI can optimize this whole grid ecosystem to unleash efficiencies and synergies.
Thanks. Farrukh, maybe in 1 minute, what do you think needs to be done to stay ahead?
To stay ahead, I think we have a great momentum. I'm a positive. I look at it positively. I think we have a great momentum. I think we really need public and private to work together, and I still think that is not happening in the right speed. Especially when you spoke about green finance, I think this is an area that we really need to explore more. Establishment of credit markets, carbon credit, I think that is something we need to do. So I can give you a to-do list of 10 things that we need to do to move fast, but we are moving forward. That is the good news.
That's great. Definitely come back tomorrow's session at 1 o'clock here. Then we talk
Absolutely.
about how we can work together. But maybe Robyn, over to you. Maybe last point on, what to stay ahead and what has CBD found most effective to maintain their leadership position?
Yeah, thank you for the closing word, and I see we're running out of time, so I'll keep it quick. Like Maya, I'm going to link it back to my first point. I think the headline of the article that we published with PwC does wrap it up nicely, empathizing with customers. We can all agree that we're in a period of transition, and that comes with a lot of uncertainty and can be uncomfortable, so that empathy is extremely important for us as a bank, but as we engage with our customers, we also see a lot of positivity and optimism, and I'll leave it there.
Great, everyone. Thanks. And I think, great, everyone, to contribute. I think the key message is really kind of working together and collaborating to solve these emerging challenges, but as well new technologies that are coming out. We have like 2 minutes left on the clock, so I'm not sure if there's any questions to the specialist panelists that we have today. So we give it some 2 minutes to the audience to ask a couple questions. Sure. Let me hand over you the microphone.
Thank you so much. Great discussion. The question coming to my mind is about carbon dioxide, what you were talking about, the carbon footprint. But methane as a gas, the greenhouse gas, is equally, I think is around 28 times potent to CO2. So what exactly is your thought on the methane as a greenhouse gas when we talk about carbon footprint? How do you relate?
I couldn't hear the question.
Let's talk about methane.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Can you fully repeat it, because we
I
heard in
couldn't
parts.
hear you. I'm so
Methane
sorry.
as a greenhouse gas is, I think, around 28 times as potent as CO2. So how do you relate with when you talk about the sustainability and all?
You mean like, so greenhouse gas is like an umbrella term, but it doesn't only refer to carbon. There are other gases within the greenhouse gas, and it's more potent. So you mean like, do we also measure the emissions from the other greenhouse gases? Is that
Yeah,
fair?
yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. To the best of my knowledge, the focus has been on carbon because that's like the bulk of the emissions. You are right. There are other gases within the greenhouse gases, like, scientifically speaking. But carbon has always been at the center of attention because it's the bulk. But you're right, essentially, if we want to do this accurately, we should be also measuring other ones. But we are already not tackling, the carbon side of the equation. So I think if we could figure that one out, the next stage would be also to expand it, measuring other gases. But I would say the bulk is the carbon.
Great. Any other questions? Then, we close it here. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Krisztian, Maya, Farrukh, and Robyn
Thanks,
for
yeah.
this
Thank you.
engaging discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.